The CPS role, as we know it currently, comes from a long history of advocacy and activism by people with lived experience of being in the system. With the mantra, "Nothing about us without us," early pioneers of the movement impacted beliefs and policy leading to today's mental health system. So what is a CPS? First and foremost, it's a person with lived experience. It's also a person who has had training, has developed competencies, has a code of ethics, a role within the mental health system, and a role beyond the mental health system. When we think of the idea of having lived experience, we think of having the shared lived experience of a mental health diagnosis and the feelings that go with that. But in addition, we also think about the experience of social exclusion and discrimination as a barrier. We also, for this role, think about the shared experience of disruption of life, being on different routes than perhaps your peers. For example, not being in college or not being able to get married and have children directly as a result of the disruption caused by a mental health diagnosis. This is what we think about for certified peer specialists. We also think about lived experience of moving beyond as something that certified peer specialists share. So moving from hopelessness to hope and belief in recovery, to finding a place where I can overcome my fear or overcome the barriers and know that I don't have to live my diagnosis, but can instead live my life. Certified peer specialists and peer workers aren't the only people within the mental health system who have lived experience. Within the mental health system, there are clinically trained mental health professionals who themselves may have lived experience, and some of them choose to disclose that within their work. And while peer workers and CPSs may have the shared value of recovery and resiliency with those people with professionally trained who also have lived experience, there are some critical differences. A major difference is the expectation around disclosure, boundaries, and therapeutic relationships that is typically part of clinical professions. For CPSs instead, there are expectations around working from a place of mutuality and sharing, and a very heavy reliance on using our own personal lived experience or our story. In addition, when we think about lived experience, we want to think about how much similarity or peerness, if you will, does the person providing services in the peer role and the person receiving services have. So for example, if I had received a diagnosis and had treatment, but not had any of my life impacted beyond my emotional level, but not had any disruptions, it would be hard to work in a state hospital and be able to say to somebody who's been in there for 2 years that I've had the same challenges of also having housing recovery or employment recovery. So we want to really think about the amount of similarity, not simply with diagnosis, but also with impact and level of involvement in the mental health system, so that we can truly be peer specialists. That's what the term means. And